Hello and happy Friday, friends and family on YouTube. This is John Bradley, host of the Finances and Fun podcast. If you've plugged in so far, this is episode 4. We are lucky enough to have the one and only Holly Cooper with us. Not only an incredible professional real estate agent, but also a fiancé. My fiancé. Bling, bling, bling. I love you, baby. And thank you so much for being on my podcast. I know it's a little intimidating, but trust me, you are going to rock this. And there's a lot of people that are friends following us on social media, just people in general that are asking us a lot of questions because over the last, let's call it really just 2 years, we've really developed a lot. Not only personally, but mainly professionally within our careers. But before we get into like the boring stuff, before we get into the finances side of things, and the business and the real estate and
all that boring stuff.
Gosh, our life revolves around real estate. Outside of real estate, tell me a little bit about the fun side of you. I've seen the fun side of you, and I love every side of you. But tell me about outside of work, outside of career. Obviously, there's stress involved. We work 25/8. It's not 24/7. We don't clock out at 5. So tell me a little bit about recharging, your hobbies, fun. Like, what do you do outside of work that really replenishes you?
Yeah. So my biggest thing right now is getting outside, spending time outside. We spend a lot of time inside working. So anytime we can get up north and go skiing, that's been a new hobby for us. Wasn't too good at snowboarding. John broke my arm.
By accident, but yes, I hate to say that I was the reason you hyperextended your fractured elbow.
But anyways, other than that, anything artistic, I am a little nerdy when it comes to that. I want to be drawing and coloring. That really helps me recharge. And then, we like to go to new restaurants all the time. So trying new places. I'm always on TikTok, finding a new spot for us to go to.
I refuse to download the app.
It's good. It's kind of a waste of time, but yeah, that's where I get fun. We travel a lot. I've backpacked Europe and Japan. We need to get back out and do some more backpacking.
Yeah, and exploring international trips.
Yeah.
We've got the mission. We're going to Nicaragua in March.
Yeah, that's going to be really cool. We're going to be building houses for people, helping them find. I think one of the things was building like a food shelter for them too.
Yeah,
that'll be a big heart soul project. So
I feel like it's just going to make my heart explode.
Yeah.
And what a perfect way to celebrate my 30th birthday.
Yes, you're turning 30 while we're there.
On a mission in Nicaragua.
Who else was their birthday? Their 30th birthday in Nicaragua.
It's just cool. It's a good bring it into the new decade. I've been slacking on international trips, for example, and giving back and volunteering. My parents raised me to where we volunteered a lot, picking up trash on the side of the highway. We did that pretty much every month when I was growing up. But being able to go to Nicaragua and help people that don't have the resources that we are so blessed to have on a convenient basis, I know that coming back, I'm going to be like, wow, hot water. Thank you, God, for hot water.
Absolutely. It's going to be eye-opening for sure. I'm excited for it.
I'm excited for that too. So that's one of the fun pieces of things. Now, hopping into the real estate aspect of things, you are relatively new, quote unquote, into the real estate game, but you're knocking it out of the park, hard. And you're well, yeah, you deserve it. You've crushed it last year, which was the toughest year in real estate that we've experienced. But besides all that, let's tell the audience, let's tell our friends, what actually got you into the industry? Because beforehand, you were, again, servant mindset. You were helping others that needed help, and you were a phlebotomist.
Yeah, I was a phlebotomist in nursing school, and I ultimately was a nursing school dropout, which is kind of funny, but I had been wanting to get into the sky rises in Phoenix, get into that business life, just be like a boss, right? Just be cool.
Boss babe.
Boss babe. Yeah. So I see all these buildings and I'm like, I want to get into insurance, maybe real estate. There's so many options out there. And then you kind of came into my life during that. You were one of the biggest people in my life that propelled getting into real estate.
Aw.
I'm over here like, I think I'm going to get my real estate license. And you're like, oh, you should maybe become a lender. So
Path of least resistance.
yeah, so I got my lending license. That was tough, but I started in 2019. And then I had a lot of success. I got in as the market was quote unquote crashing and rates were super low. I was doing refinance banking, putting people in rates like 1.88 was the lowest. The rates are not at 1.88 anymore.
No
So
way.
that was super fun. I learned a lot, but ultimately I love being on this side. I'm a real estate agent. I've been licensed now for 2 years. So this is where I find my passion and my creativity blend perfectly together. And lending, it just wasn't that, but that's a tool I'll always have, which is really cool.
And I should probably like throw it out there that I didn't like shut it down. I wasn't like, no, don't be a real estate agent. Like,
Sure.
But knowing how the money works, that was the big reason that I was like, okay, well, I hear you. I actually have my real estate license at the time, and I'm a lender right now, mortgage banker. And I kind of just explained like, well, 100% commission, no benefits, no salary, 1099. But most importantly, learning how the money works. Like that was a big thing for when you were passing your SAFE test. You were like, wow, I'm seeing how people can leverage. I'm having the conversations with clients that really are usually too prideful to acknowledge that like, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm scared. I'm in debt. Like I don't know if a refinance makes sense for me. So I'm curious, like, did you have any good examples of like when you were on the phones, you were slanging some refis, you were dropping people down from 5 to like 199, 2.5, like what was a good conversation or what was a good scenario that you ran into there?
So while I was banking,
Yeah.
I think the biggest conception that I had prior to getting into lending was people who are doctors or these high status earners are just like, they've got their life together. And when you pull somebody's credit, like you can really see like, whether they have their life together or not.
Be like, I hear what you're telling me, but your $2,000 a month car lease with your $1,000 a month credit card bill.
Yeah, you're like, you're maxed out. Like you're completely over leveraged right now. So I think that was the biggest eye opening. I can't think of just one conversation, but just in a general sense, I really understood how money worked, how it can be leveraged good and how it can be leveraged bad.
And so like we were behind the phones and you had the glamour, you had the skyscraper, Bluetooth headset. I don't know if you were playing putt-putt.
We had a basketball.
Yeah. Little
there.
basketball hoop on floor, 17?
Yeah, I think I was on 16 and then 17. I felt like a badass, like driving into the Phoenix area, working in the downtown space. Like I got what I wanted out of that.
Attorneys were walking around. We were right next to the courts. So we had police officers and attorneys walking around in their suits. And we're just like, here for lunch.
Yeah. And well, not to mention like going from a phlebotomist in nursing school, I was making like $30,000 at the time. My first year of lending, I hit that 6-figure mark and was able to...
Hashtag boss babe. Or hashtag sugar mama.
You're crazy. But I was able to buy my mom a new car and then bought my first house too, like within that year and a half. So that really just opened my eyes to like more possibilities.
And what I love about that is that I'm going to say you manifested that. Because not only for the location and the geographical area that we were working in, but you manifested helping clients. You manifested buying your mom a new car. There was a lot of like mental shift, and imposter syndrome's a real thing. Like I talk to investors all day, every day that they haven't bought their first property, but they're chipping away at it and they're educating themselves and they're taking steps, but they just haven't pulled the trigger per se. So I'm curious, like there had to have been a huge mindset shift from phlebotomist, lending, real estate agent, and we'll get to it, but real estate investor. So like, what would you attribute that mindset shift to? Because there's a lot of people that are struggling. They say like, I want that. I want to progress, but show me how. So what feedback would you give someone that says like, I want to learn more. I want to get that golden nugget from you? What would you tell them?
Yeah. So I can't remember who it was at the time, but somebody, I wrote it down on my computer. I think it was somebody from in the lending world when I was doing that. They were like, lean in and create a seat at the table. And do you remember like me talking about that one?
Yeah, that was like an all women's real estate Zoom meeting that you hopped on.
Yeah. So that alone like propelled me to actually get out of my comfort zone. And the mindset thing is so big. Like if you can overcome the mindset like barrier, then a lot of things start to open up because you realize that the people who are at the table you want to be at aren't too different than yourself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, just going into those rooms, going places alone where you're not just like hanging out with your buddy and that you kind of have this like safety net, like you really have to put yourself out there.
Networking.
And then once you're competent in what you're doing, you're confident in what you're doing, then you're a killer. Like,
and then every conversation turns into an opportunity that turns into some seed that plants somewhere that blossoms at some future time. Like we've both had deals that pop up like 4 years later, 3 years later, and we're like, that was based on a conversation that I planted years ago.
It's all about relationships too. Like I think a lot of people go into real estate thinking about transactions like, ooh, I can make so much money. I want like just transaction. But when you look at it from a real estate or a relationship standpoint, that's where your business starts to grow and you're just making friends with people and you're going to lunch and you're just being authentic.
Mm-hmm.
That's the shift.
Shift happens. Shift happens. Yeah. I love that. Yeah. And yeah, there's a lot that we could deep dive into that, but let's keep it moving along the chronological time frame. So you go from phlebotomist, you invest in yourself and your knowledge, you put yourself out there, you network, you make friends with people that maybe seem at a higher level than you, and it's a little intimidating, but at the end of the day, they become really close friends. And I have one specific example that comes to mind. If you want to share, what is your favorite book?
Okay. I love this question. So we were camping and I think I just pulled a random book off of your bookshelf. It was Rich Dad Poor Dad, which is not an original favorite book. So many investors get into that.
It can be an original recommendation. If you have not read Rich Dad Poor Dad, that is where you start. No matter what phase in life you are, no matter how much money you have in the bank account, no matter how much money you're making on a yearly basis, if you have not read Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, take this as your invitation that you really have to.
Go read the book. It's good. So we're camping and I read through that entire book in one day. And the premise of it is really just mindset, like Rich Dad Poor Dad. You want to kind of evaluate where you are in life and where you want to be.
And who you're listening to.
Yeah, absolutely. So I read that book, was super inspired. I ended up getting my real estate license and I'm out in the field interviewing different brokerages. I get invited to like a women's networking event and I'm sitting in Paradise Valley and I'm in Sharon Lecter's house and we're just going around the room and we're talking about our favorite books. And I had no idea, sorry, Sharon, but I had no idea that she was the co-author of that book. So it comes around to me and they asked me and I was like, oh, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And she was like, Holly, I want to tell you something. We actually wrote that book. Robert Kiyosaki was in my dining room, like pointed like over there. That's where we wrote it. And I was like, what the hell? Like, oh my gosh. So that really just opened my eyes to like what I was just saying about like create a seat at the table. Like this book that inspired me just 6 months before, I'm like meeting the co-author. I'm here where it was wrote. And then fast forward to about 1.5 years in the business, we meet Robert Kiyosaki. Like
Limitless Conference last year.
like
Met Mikey
sky's the
Taylor.
that was fun for you.
That is a milestone. Like
Yeah.
that was someone that I grew up looking and idolizing as a professional skateboarder, saying I wanted to be a professional skateboarder. I want to be Mikey Taylor.
You got your shoes autographed. Are you wearing the shoes right now?
No, those shoes are dirty and used and abused, but they are still signed, Mikey. I appreciate you. And yeah, good conversations. But you look at those idols and you're like, oh my gosh, like these people are so out of touch. They're so at a high level. They're so out of reach. There's no way I'm ever going to meet them. But by taking a chance, by saying yes, you put yourself into an uncomfortable position, whether that's on a podcast for the first time, whether that's going to a conference where there's a lot of high-level people, whether that's a special invite dinner that only 15 people are invited to, and they're all really rich, and you're like, oh my God, I'm out of place.
I don't belong in this room. Like, what am I doing here? But you do. You do.
That abundance mindset.
Yeah.
So Rich Dad Poor Dad had a huge impact on you. That helped with the mindset. That helped with feeling confident and competent within your role.
Yeah.
And so let's fast forward and like what's next from there? So you were a year and a half into the industry. You had some ups and downs.
Yeah.
What felt low and what got you feeling really good?
Okay. So what felt low? Real estate is full of ups and downs. Like, let's just be real. There's
real estate is cyclical. There are ups and downs, and we cannot confirm nor deny the fact that your house might go up or down in value because that is just the market. But
yeah, absolutely. So, being consistent. Well, actually, let me just backtrack a little bit. So they say in real estate, when you have momentum, you want to ride that wave. So you have to put in a lot of work to get that momentum, to get that going. But there are times where you're at a lull and you're not making money. There was a time just a year and a half ago, I didn't make money for 4 months. And that's hard. That's really hard because
it's stressful.
A lot of people will get out of the industry. They won't double down at that time. And I doubled down. There were times I had a couple $100s in my account, and that was not an easy thing to do at the time.
Nerve-wracking.
Yeah, very nerve-wracking. So I would say just pulling myself through those lows, I guess. Like, I don't know. The highs are high, the lows are low. You get through it.
You get through it.
I'm not really sure how to answer that one.
Well, you have the consistency within it, and you stuck to it, and you played the game. Mm-hmm. You ran the call that was there. And that even though you felt on the low, like you knew, okay, well, if I continue to do the actions and I put in the work, that I know it's going to pop. Mm-hmm. But also the kind of cruddy part is that you can't make someone buy a house.
No.
You can't make someone to sell a house.
Yeah. You just have to be there providing value throughout the process. And that might be a year-long process. It could be 6 months or 2 days. You just have to be there when they're ready.
And always providing service. What's like your elevator pitch? I'm curious, like for the value added services that you provide, like what separates you from another realtor?
Yeah. So I come from a very strong service background, like serving people. That makes the biggest difference in any industry. So when I talk with my clients, I let them know, like, I'm going to be there. Like, this is not just a transaction to me. Like, I'm going to be there to celebrate you at your highest highs. I'm going to be there to help hold your hand and walk you through your lowest lows and like just be your support. And I have the knowledge. So a lot of people trust, what I'm saying on that side. But I think where a lot of people fall in the real estate industry is just not having that like empathetic bit to like care for the people and actually like hold them through the process,
Yeah. Yeah. Feeling true empathy.
Yeah. So my elevator pitch, I guess, I hadn't really thought about that. You're putting me on the spot here, but yeah, just being that concierge service through the real estate transaction.
I love that. Yeah. And your client testimonials definitely go to show that because every client that you work with is like, you are my real estate homegirl gal. Like, you are my homegirl Holly.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Oh, man, I love my, the testimonies that I get from my clients are so, like, that's what keeps me going. Like, I get the most heartwarming calls from people like, you are the only reason this went through. I've worked with 2 other agents to get to this point, and I haven't ever had anybody like work as hard or get the deal done like you did. Like, you made this happen. And like that right there, it's just like, oh, it's so heartwarming. It makes me feel like this isn't work. Like, I tell you that all the time at the house. I'm like, I love my job. Like, we're just decompressing at the end of the day. And I'm like talking to you about real estate at like 11 o'clock. And you're like, Holly, it's time to like turn that off. And I'm like, I love this. I love what we're doing.
It's so nice helping people out and having that significant impact, because that's one of the biggest purchases or decisions is your house.
Yeah.
Your housing, your meals, and your transportation. Like, those are the 3 big expenses someone has in their life. So you're making an impact on their largest decision that's going to have the biggest impact on the amount of debt they're getting into, on their monthly payments on a monthly basis. Like, you're also helping them budget. I've heard and seen you also help like clean their house. Like, you walk in, you're like, listen, I love your home. I love your home. We're going to do a little cleanup here.
It's a concierge service, John.
It's a concierge service.
I come with my broom and my like disinfecting spray. Like, we're going to get this sold.
Don't worry, photographer's here in 3 hours. Let's get cleaning.
Yeah.
Concierge service, really. Like, you sprinkled that in there. Good.
Yeah. I will go above and beyond. Like, this isn't, like, I take it serious, and I'm pretty good at what I do. Like,
not so subtle plug.
Not so subtle plug.
It's true though.
But I want to make sure that people have the best experience, and I'm willing to do what it takes to get that done for them.
And that servant attitude, that giving attitude really shows more than just transactions. It really is relationships. So we just closed on a transaction. It was very exciting. It was a very emotional roller coaster.
Oh, that's right.
You were saying there was 4 months there of just a couple $100 in the account. So I know what time frame of the year that was at. And coincidentally, your time was so occupied with another project, another passion project that you were manifesting 4 years ago.
Yeah.
Ain't
flip.
that crazy?
The flip.
So walk people through the flip, because you posted about, here's what I love about you and about your work ethic. You wanted to become a real estate investor. You wanted to learn how this works, because honestly, online real estate gurus are out there taking advantage of people that are willing to pay $40,000 for a course, and they don't get the value that you did. And you didn't pay that. You didn't pay $40,000. You didn't pay 10 grand for some guru class. You didn't spend 3 days at a seminar or anything like that. So with this flip, you were posting on it, social media all the way. What I loved about it is that you managed the negotiations up front. You managed the interviewing contractors. You managed the subcontractors. And you staged, designed, painted the roof twice.
Never doing that again.
You did so much within this property that, like, not only do I have to give you an awesome testimonial for the hard work that you put into it, because it was an amazing finished product, but you went through a lot with that. We closed last month. So that was a 7-month period of time.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about it.
Yeah. So we, this property came up within our real estate team, and we ran the numbers. We looked at it. We're talking about like jumping into this thing, like both feet in, not really fully understanding where we're going. We're like, all right, we're going to do this.
At the same time that a triplex comes in off market, that me and KJ are like, this is a good deal.
Yeah. I was like, John, we got this right together. And you're like, I actually have something else. You're going to do this one just fine. And I'm like,
you got it.
All right, let's go for it. So yeah, we run the numbers. It makes sense. We get into the property. This home was previously somewhat hoarded. Like, there was a lot of stuff in it, and it needed a lot of work. I'm not going to lie. It was intimidating. Like, there was a lot that needed to be done there. So we get into the property, and I start getting contractors coming into the house. And that was a new experience for me. So I interviewed 3 contractors, and the first ones that came, they were like, Holly, this is going to be X amount. And I could just tell that they're like taking advantage of me. They could see like, I might as well have been wearing like a green like t-shirt. Like, I'm brand new. What am I doing? You know? And they just completely started to like give me crazy numbers. So the biggest like step one is like finding your people. When you go into that, like we have really good people now, but we had to sift through them, which kind of took us a little longer than
2 months.
we thought that it was going to be. So we get into that process, and then, yeah, it was like a 6.5 month process from start to finish, like getting it sold again. I did a lot of work. We talked about like, you were talking about like where my like finances were at the time. So I was doing a lot of hands-on work. I learned so much. YouTube University, it works. It's a real thing. But during that time, like when you're doing the work on the project, you can't ideally keep working on your real estate business. So
following up with clients, nurturing
yeah, like,
clients,
it's just-
showing houses.
it's a lot. So my real estate business kind of like tanked during that time while I was doing this, but we got through it. Fast forward, we did the negotiations, and we got it sold. So we put, let's see, we bought it with hard money. Actually, kind of like backtracking a little bit. So we bought it with hard money, and we got it sold 6.5 months later, which was great. And moving forward, like that's a little badge like I can carry on my chest when I go into those investor meetings that we're attending in Vegas and Maui. Like I am a real estate investor. Like the confidence is there. Like I went through it.
You
and it
not
wasn't
only went
easy.
through it, you were knocking down the walls. You had to knock down a wall.
Yeah.
You had to redo
That was
plumbing
so fun. I highly recommend knocking down walls.
with a hammer. It feels great.
Yeah, it was cool.
You had to redo the plumbing so that the kitchen island had water to it.
Yeah, we made it into an island. So knock down walls, there's piping, there's wires like hanging from the ceiling. And I was like, oh, this wasn't on YouTube.
Dang.
So then we have our contractor come and they're like, oh yeah, we're going to have to like rewire this, drill out the concrete floor. Like I can't tell you how many, well, I have told you actually how many obstacles we ran into with this process. Like just constant road bumps, but yeah, we got through them.
So we bought it for $293
$293, $40K into it,
and sold for
$380. So that was gross $102,000 roughly.
solid money.
That was pretty cool.
And then what I love about this is talking about putting yourself in an uncomfortable position. You're doing something that you're like, oh my God, I'm not a real estate investor, but I'm going to do it. YouTube University. Pa, 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 pa.
Yeah.
And then you being you, everyone loves to talk to you and you're absolutely beautiful. And so you are talking to the neighbors, and what happened?
Oh, I got the listing. They reached out to me. They're like, hey, Holly, I see what you've been doing. Like your hard work. Like I was there at midnight working on this property, and they're like, you are a killer. Like I love what you're doing right now. I need to sell my house, and I'm not willing to, like, I don't want to interview other agents. Like I just want to hire you.
You had immediate credibility.
That was so cool. So we sold our property on Renegade, and the house that I'm listing right now is right next door. So I just like go over there, pick up my sign from our front yard. I'm like, walk over and just like pop it in the neighbor's yard. I'm fully expecting the next door neighbor to hire me in like 2 months. We'll see. But yeah, I got that listing. I got it under contract in 12 days. We're in escrow right now.
Congratulations.
Good stuff. Thank you.
Like that's just one thing feeds into another. Like God always provides, which is great.
Yeah, I love that.
And you have just seen so much success through the hard work, through the effort that you've put in physically and emotionally and mentally. And now it's all just coming to fruition on. Personally, now that we're going to get married later this year, I am excited to see what the rest of our life looks like, really. Like the next couple of years are going to be super exciting.
Absolutely. And I think it's so cool. Like we truly are a power couple. Like
It's great, huh?
You put me in some like awkward situations like this podcast. You should have seen me last night. I was like, I'm going to go to Mexico today. I can't make this. But like you push me into these like positions in the most healthy way. And I love like seeing our friends like talk with us, and they're like, you guys are a power couple. Like
Even clients.
Yeah, like that's so cool. That's the goal. Right?
Highly recommend. Marry your best friend, partner, business partner, referral partner.
Hey, the math.
Find you a Holly and Bradley.
Oh, man.
Anyway, enough of the gushy stuff. Thank you so much for tuning in. Just kicking it back to you, Holly. Any last words? Like, I am curious. First time investor, tell them more about where they can find you.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram, your homegirl Holly. And I'm posting a lot of content on there about where we're going with our investors. We're starting to get into pre-foreclosures. That's going to be a whole nother podcast.
Be the market.
Yeah, we're going to need to talk about that again. But yeah, find me on Instagram.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is John Bradley at Finances and Fun. Thank you for watching today's episode. This is episode 4. We're going to continue the roll. We're getting a little more refined processes down, having some actual good questions teed up and prepared. Prior and proper preparation prevents poor performance.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's on the wall at the gym. Thank you so much again, and we will see you at the next episode of Finances and Fun.
Thank you for listening to the Finances and Fun podcast. Please like and subscribe to get new episodes as they're released. We love engaging with our audience, so please leave us a comment below with any feedback or questions you have. Write to the show by sending an email to talktoaproadvisor@gmail.com. You can find the video version of the show on YouTube at the Finances and Fun YouTube channel. Check out clips of the show on our Instagram and YouTube. Just search Finances and Fun. This has been a T-Door production.